For those of you who don't know me, my name's Sean Cordes. I'm a natural resource officer here for the town of Barnstable. Lucky enough to be stationed here at Sandy Neck Beach pretty much full time. I'm out here just about every day. Sandy Neck's actually comprised of over 4,700 acres of protected land. About 3,500 acres of that land is right here in the Great Marsh, which is the second largest salt marsh in all of Massachusetts. And that's where our terrapins are from. So the diamondback terrapin's a really cool animal. Terrapins are the only species of turtle that have adapted to live in brackish water, which is where freshwater and saltwater mix in different estuaries like salt marshes up here in the north or mangroves down in the south. So the diamondback terrapin's range stretches all the way from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up here to Massachusetts, which is their northernmost range. So you won't find any terrapins north of Massachusetts. They're also a protected species here in Massachusetts. They're on the endangered species list and they're listed as threatened. And they got that listing for a couple of reasons. So number one is habitat loss. Diamondback terrapins live in the salt marsh, which is a type of wetland, and historically, unfortunately, we've lost a lot of our wetlands. So we do a few things here at the beach in order to help protect these animals. One of those, when we're walking out here and you might see them, we have milk crates that are buried in the sand. So if you're ever hiking the trails and you see those are actually terrapin nests that are underneath those. So we're able to actually go out day to day and monitor terrapin nesting, which is happening right now this time of year. And when we find a nest, we can put one of those crates over the nest and it works as a predator excluder device and keeps a lot of those predators away that would otherwise go after them. So that's one of the things that we do, and that helps the turtles get to the point of hatching. And they hatch out, they're about the size of a quarter in September, October. And that's when we've got a lot of these turtles from different organizations. We have a few that we raised ourselves. We have the turtles from the Cape Wildlife Center here today. It's a really treacherous journey to get back into the marsh, and only about 1 in every 100 terrapins is going to make it to adulthood. So it's a really low number, unfortunately. One of the great things that we're able to do here today that you're going to see is this Head Start program that's been incorporated for over 10 years now within the town. And so what happens is, as we walk down the marsh trail, you're going to see that this is still an active trail for some vehicles, but the trail's also made out of sand. So to a terrapin, it's a really good spot to nest. It looks like an ideal place. So some of those terrapins actually lay their eggs directly into that marsh trail. But luckily, again, we monitor every single day out here, and we're able to actually find those nests after they're laid and relocate them to a safe area where we can monitor them over the course of the season until they hatch out. And those are the animals that are then given out to organizations like schools and libraries and Cape Wildlife Center and all these great places that do a really good job taking care of them over the course of the winter. So they're staying in nice warm water, they're eating lots of food, and by the time they're released here today, they're going to be about the size of a 2 or a 3-year-old turtle. So their shell's nice and big and strong, and a lot of those predators that would otherwise go after them don't really have the opportunity to do that anymore. These turtles are getting released directly into the marsh where they're going to spend the rest of their lives. And so their, potential for survival into adulthood should be much higher. One of the really cool things I want to talk about real briefly before we get going too is we were able to add one more thing this year to a lot of our turtles, and that was implementing pit tags. And what a pit tag is, if any of you guys have pets and you've ever had your pet microchipped, it's a very similar thing. So it's just a little piece of wire that gets implanted just below the skin on one of their hind legs. And when you use a scanner over that, it has a unique ID code, and that can tell you where that terrapin came from, what year we raised it, what school it was raised in, even what classroom or what library or whatever it was raised in. So it's not an active tag. We can't track them day to day and figure out where they're going or what they're doing, but it also stays with them presumably for life. So in 40 years, if a terrapin's still nesting out here that was pit tagged, you could still, if you encounter that animal, you could scan that and know exactly where it came from and how it's doing. And so it's going to allow us to have, more opportunity to really monitor the success of the program and how well this population is doing. So we're really excited that we're able to get that going this year and to incorporate it more in the coming years as well. And just one real quick story I do want to mention with the turtles from the Cape Wildlife Center. One of the reasons why I keep mentioning those ones, we have them with us here today, is that those turtles ultimately came from a terrapin that was struck by a vehicle on the road. So it was hit while it was trying to find a nesting site here on 6A in West Barnstable. Ultimately, that that turtle had to be put down. You know, it wasn't able to be rehabbed. But Cape Wildlife staff was able to work really hard to actually extract those eggs, and we're able to put those eggs into a bucket and relocate them here at Sandy Neck, where we monitor them, and they actually hatched out into hatchlings and were then raised in part of the Head Start program. So, you know, I just thought it was a really cool opportunity that was able to come together and give those animals a second chance, even though, again, that adult wasn't able to make it through that. And lastly, the actual release site is going to be going a little bit through the marsh, so you might get a little bit muddy and a little bit wet, but that's all part of the fun and the excitement of the release. And everybody can file in behind, and we'll take a nice stroll down the marsh trail into the marsh to say our last goodbyes.